Welcome to the Growth Catalyst Show, where we believe that growth could come in many forms: professional, personal, company, sales, you name it. I'm your host, Dan Mahoney, founder of Transcendent Sales Solutions and a guide to a world of growth possibilities. I've spent my career empowering companies and their people with strategies that accelerate growth. I'm here to bring you stories of these business leaders and their trusted advisors to gain insights into their journeys and learn how they fuel their own growth. Just maybe their journey could become part of your own growth story. Are you ready? Let's grow. Welcome to the next episode of the Growth Catalyst Show. I'm your host, Dan Mahoney, and I am very happy to introduce my next guest. Nick Ryder joined Mauldin Jenkins in 2015 and is a partner in the private client services practice. He serves on the GSCPA Board of Directors, Atlanta Angels Board of Directors, Georgia Department of Revenue Commissioner Executive Committee, and is the chairman of the GSCPA Federal and Tax State Task Force. Nick lives in Fayetteville with his wife, Heather, and sons, Nick Jr. and Lucas. He loves coaching baseball, playing bass at his church, and is a smoker of high-quality meats and fine cigars. Nick Ryder, welcome to the Growth Catalyst.
Thank you. Really excited to be here. I really appreciate it. And finishing up our baseball season tonight, actually with a couple of games, and then doing some barbecue this weekend. So you nailed it right there at the end. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I got to tell you, when we have had our discussions before regarding your little setup in your backyard on how you're smoking meats and all the things you're doing, my mouth waters.
I love it. This is the best time of year for it too. It's a little bit cooler. We're done with our tax season. Now it's time to sit back and enjoy fruits of our labor, right?
It's time to breathe. So I want to get into your background. So doing a little research about you, you went to LaGrange College for accounting.
That's right.
And you went straight into your master's degree and went right into Kennesaw State. So you did the 6-year plan.
Yeah, I went straight in, and it's funny. I actually, I graduated from LaGrange College, I think on May 23rd, and I started my first accounting job at a firm up here in Sandy Springs on June 2nd. And it was funny, during the interview, I told them that I was in the master's program at Kennesaw State. I actually hadn't even applied yet. So I was banking on that working out. Luckily it did. And went right into work, started getting the experience while I was getting my master's. And then took the 2 or 3 year plan to get my CPA license after that. So just tried to work, gain as much experience as I could, as I was going. But it went really well. I was really fortunate, really blessed to have the opportunities that I did at the timing that I did. So it really worked out well.
Did you know going into college that, growing up, like, I want to be a CPA someday?
Not at all. So actually my family has a strong history in construction. My grandfather, I can drive through Atlanta, Thomaston, and point out the buildings that my grandfather helped build. So construction is really in my family's history. And so I actually went to school thinking I would do pre-engineering and maybe go into construction. And that's actually a funny story. So I was doing, I think I had a physics class and an accounting class at the same time. And I realized very quickly I cannot do physics math. And, that can kill people. So you got to be very careful. But I can add and subtract pretty easily. And so the accounting math just worked better for me. And so I made that shift over. And luckily, with me graduating in 2008, we all know what happened to the construction industry then. So it really worked out well again. Very fortunate. So the accounting just really fit, and it meshed well with who I am, I think, long run.
I remember my accounting 460 when I was in college, and my professor brought me up and said, "Hey, listen, I think you need to pick another profession. Not because you couldn't do this, because this isn't you." And and I always remember Mrs. Sampson because she set me in the right path.
That's funny. Yeah, I had a class, I think my senior year of accounting, and I think it was statistics or something, and the teacher, I was really struggling. And I remember talking to my main professor, Dr. Rosenkrantz, during that. And, we were talking at the elevator one day, and I was I almost just broke down. I was like, I can't not do this. Like this is, I've kind of put all my eggs in this one basket. It's got to work. And so she really helped me. And, we kind of put in the work and made sure I got through that. So it just worked. The math was easy. And getting to know clients and getting to know people, that's really where my passion is. And getting to know what people want to do with their lives and talking to people is really what I love to do. And being in the tax world, the way that I work really helps to solidify that and allow me to do that most days.
Talk a little bit about out of school. So 3 years to get your CPA, which is not out of the realm. I heard it's a harder test than anything, even the bar is what I've heard from many people.
Yeah.
So you got into your first practice. Tell me a little bit about your experience in your first practice and how you really got integrated into the small, mid-sized business market.
Yeah, it was great. So as soon as I started, I remember actually as part of my interview, we were on an extended deadline that year in 2008. I'm trying to remember what happened. I think it was the tornadoes downtown in Atlanta, that blew the windows out of the West. And I think that storm caused an extended deadline. And so it was funny, on my interview, I actually did a couple of tax returns that afternoon. I had been doing I did 2 rounds of internships when I was in college. I worked in a textile plant when I was in college, but also did an internship. So I was familiar with software. I was familiar with inputting returns, but they gave me those returns. And then I started working with a partner, Jimmy, who really took me under his wing. And, he showed me how to work. And all the partners at the first firm I worked at, they really walked me through, but they were primarily a tax practice. Well, the partner that I worked with was primarily tax. And so that's where I really just kind of dove into the tax side of it. Really worked through, and I tried to take in as much as I could. And at a smaller firm, I was able to see a lot of different things. I had experience across a wide range of clients. Wide range of industries. I got a little bit of review experience, enough to know that I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. And I got the tax experience, that really helped build a foundation for what I do now and how I work. What I also picked up along the way was some good lessons on how to work with clients, how to talk to them, quality, level of work, all of those things that have served me well when I got to M&J that we were able to then build on. So I had a great foundation from there. And then, like you said, I started working right out of college. And then after my master's, I graduated from that in 2010 and then started the CPA process, working, taking the exams. Anybody who's in that process knows that is a grind and it's a tough road. Actually, I almost didn't pass. I would think I was 6 months out from losing one of the first sections that I passed. Because if you don't pass the rest of them in a year and a half, you lose one, or they start to fall off. You have to retake them. And I remember driving to my grandmother's house with my wife one afternoon. I said, if I don't pass this next section, I'm done. I was actually going to get a food truck. We talked about I would have a food truck. I was going to start cooking, and I was just going to do something else. The partner I worked with actually took me to lunch one day. He said, not every accountant, I know some great accountants that are not CPAs. He said, not every accountant is a CPA. And I thought, this isn't the most uplifting motivational talk conversation. But anyway, it all worked out. I really, I just took the time. I put in the effort. Again, was really blessed to have the time and a wife that was willing to let me put in the time. Without that, it would not have gone well. So she really supported me, had a good support system, had a firm that supported that, allowed me to study and do my work at the same time. So then once I passed, it was all over. It's kind of like whenever you graduate college, nobody asks you what your GPA is anymore. Once you're a CPA, nobody asks what your score was on the CPA exam. It's just, hey, you did it. So now you're a CPA, and as long as you take your CPE, you're always a CPA. So it works out pretty well. But that built a foundation that I use now whenever I talk to clients, and it really helped build that for me.
One thing I always wonder is, when in the process do you figure out, like, okay, I'm going the tax side or I'm going the audit side? When do you kind of figure that out?
That's a good question. And that's actually one of the things that I think Mauldin Jenkins does really well with our new incoming staff. So at a smaller firm, it's going to be a little bit different process, right? Because you've got a different clientele. You may not be in every facet. Obviously, Big Four, you're going to, I think the idea there is that you kind of get in one section and you do this one return for all the clients, and that's all you do. A smaller firm, you're going to get a wide range of experiences, a wide range of clients. You're going to start interacting with clients a lot sooner, I think, at a smaller firm, because there are just fewer people to do that. So it's kind of a sink or swim type environment, depending on the firm you go to. But Mauldin Jenkins, what they do really well, whenever we bring on new people, we have so many different areas. So we have a large banking practice. We have a large governmental practice. We have a nonprofit practice. And then we have when I'm in the private client services. And we also have client advisory services. So we have a lot of different areas that people can try. And so as people come in, they may go into one section, work in that for a year or two, and then say, hey, I want to go to tax. Can I try tax? We'll move them over to tax, let them work. And so you try a little bit of everything. And I would say after about, 3 to 4 years, you start to figure out, hey, I'm good at this, and just naturally. And I think for me, naturally, I just gravitated toward tax. The conversations in tax are a little bit different. The planning is a little bit different. I think tax is more of an art than a science, where audit is more science than art. And I'm more of an artistic type person. So I think I just naturally gravitated towards that.
So one thing that's unique about looking at your background is you've been at Mauldin Jenkins. This is your second go around with them. This is the second time is the charm. And I know that you just were named one of their partners. One of 6 people were just named partner just a few months ago. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
As a very young man, talk about your journey of being a partner at such a young age, which I think is phenomenal.
It's kind of weird, to be completely honest with you. I'm still catching up. It's funny. I was mentioning to somebody who's a younger staff yesterday, we were talking, because I try to, I want to be a mentor to those that are around me that are coming up after me, which is what I've received, that mentoring. So I want to be able to provide that. But I told her yesterday, it's like wearing a pair of shoes that are too big. You're going to grow into them, but it's going to take some time to get used to. You're going to fumble around a little bit. I'm still learning. I take that piece of advice that the day that you stop learning is the day that you've got a problem. So I'm trying to take in advice. I actually sent emails out today to some other partners saying, hey, I just want to talk. Let's figure some stuff out. I've got some challenges that I'm hitting, or I've got some gaps, and I want to fill in those gaps so that I can be the best partner that I can be. But yeah, it's interesting. I look around at my peer group, and I see a lot of people working really, really hard. And so it's encouraging to see other people making partner with me. They're in the same group, same, experience level. It's really exciting. It just takes effort. And I think that's really the biggest thing. I just try to keep my head down. I keep working. I'm 37, but I've been doing this since I was 19 or 20. So I've still got a good number of years in it, but I still got a long way to go, and really excited about the future for sure. Not sure if that really answered your question. I kind of went off there, and but no. The experience of being partner has definitely been one that has been interesting, and again, super humbled by the experience and by the selection to be partner. It's definitely something that when I started in public accounting, I'd originally said, I wanted to have my name on the door. Well, at Mauldin Jenkins, my name will not be on the door. I get that. That is a known fact. But the idea there remains the same. I wanted to be partner. And this has been a goal of mine since I started when I was 20. So it's good to see that realization come to be.
So talk about just your journey and some tips from some folks out there like, hey, I want to take that next step. And, sometimes with so much experience out there, it's hard to do that and make that leap. Give a couple nuggets of things to do, whether you want to be a CPA or you're working for a firm or a small company. How do you make that leap? And what are some things you should be thinking about?
Yeah. So obviously, I mean, if you're wanting to hit that point, if you're wanting to be a partner, obviously the CPA designation, I talk to a lot of people who maybe don't have their CPA, or they're thinking, well, do I really need it? I'd say if you want to be a partner, you need to have CPA license. That's going to be something that's critical. And again, it's not that people who do this for 20 years have the same experience without the designation. It's just the CPA just shows that you took that extra time to get the designation. So I think that's important. But then really trying to focus in on what it is you want to do, and then trying to do a little bit extra than what you're called to do. So what I mean by that is, at every level, so when I was a staff, when I was a senior, when I was a manager, as a director, I was always working up a level. And so I didn't, you look at the job requirements as a staff. Okay, well, I'm not just going to do that. I'm going to do the job requirements of a senior. I want to start doing that level work as a staff. And what it does, and if you do that at every level, by the time you get that promotion, by the time you're at that level, you're already doing it. There are no questions. And then you start doing the next level up, and you're constantly ahead of the curve. And so that's what I've consistently done throughout my career, is I've always tried to do the next level up. I remember whenever I was at my first firm, and then when I came to Mauldin Jenkins, I asked, can I have the first firm, they referred it to as a sandbox to play in. So let me go get a client. As a manager, as a director, we don't really have clients of our own, but let me have that. Let me learn how to build clients. Let me learn how to have an issue with a client that I have to resolve, but it's nobody else's client. It's my client. I don't have to just pass that off. I have to deal with this. And let me do it on a return that's only $500. I need to figure that stuff out before I get a $50,000 client. Because at that point I can't mess up. And at a $500 client, I can at least make some errors. I can learn those lessons. And I was learning that, 8-10 years ago. And so it helps me to be more prepared now. I would say the things that I'm learning now, by the time I'm, in my 50s and in kind of that premium years of my career, I think I'm going to be very well set up to be doing a really, really good job as long as I build that foundation. So I would say that's one key thing. And then always listening, asking, hey, can I go to this meeting? Can I be a part? Always trying to do a little bit extra. I think that really helps. It does two things. One, it gets you prepared again for the next level. But two, it shows the people that are around you and that are at your firm that you want to be here. You want to put in the effort, and it's recognized. A lot of times we don't think it is, but it 100% is seen. People take notice of that, and it really helps to advance your career. Yeah,
I think it's being proactive too. I mean, I've always as I moved through corporate America, I never asked somebody to do a job or do anything that I wasn't willing or knew how to do myself.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. And then I think too, once you get in kind of that middle range, as a manager, as a director, or depending, whatever, before partner, but not a staff, I think it's really key to work with people who, are coming up. Continue to develop those people. And I always look at it as working with someone, not working for or having someone work for you. You're working with them. It's a project. You're doing it together. We're all trying to accomplish the same goal. Let's work together. Let's make sure that we're accomplishing this goal, and let's do it to the benefit of the client. Let's make sure the client's taken care of. And as long as we do that, I think everything's going to work out okay. It's just important to to make sure that you're always trying to do that little bit extra. And what I would say is over the last few years, the work that I've done with the state at the Georgia Society of CPAs, those extra hours, that extra effort has, I would say, catapulted me over the last few years as far as my experience and my career moving forward at an accelerated pace, just giving back.
Let's take a moment for a quick word from our sponsor. This episode of the Growth Catalyst Show was brought to you by Transcendent Sales Solutions. Whether your company is facing uncertainty, declining sales, or resource limitations, Transcendent Sales has the solution. Their team has decades of experience helping businesses find alignment to meet their growth goals and transforming underperforming sales organizations into revenue-producing market leaders. They take a hands-on, results-oriented approach to solving sales challenges. Visit transcendentsales.com to learn more and subscribe to the bi-weekly Growth Catalyst newsletter for insightful growth strategies. Transcendent Sales Solutions, empowering businesses to reach new heights. And now, back to the show. Absolutely. Well, and giving back, you do a lot of volunteering, not only with Promise Place, but also with Atlanta Angels. Talk briefly about your volunteer work, because I know that's near and dear to your heart.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, we're given certain skills in life, God-given talents and God-given skills. And if we don't use those skills and talents, then, we're really not fulfilling our purpose in life. And so I tried to find organizations that I can help and just serving those, that need it the most. And Promise Place was near and dear to my heart. I served with them for 6 years on the board. I was board president for 3 years. Domestic violence shelter and serving Fayette County and surrounding counties. I have some stories in my extended family from domestic violence. So, that's a personal thing for me. And, I just wanted to be able to help. And that's really what it comes down to. I want to be able to give back. I want to help. And Atlanta Angels is the same thing. What I learned through my time at Promise Place is that foster care or foster children are some really underserved youth in the area. And there's a lot of continuity between domestic violence and foster care and the need for that help. And so once I served my time at Promise Place, I was looking for another avenue that I could continue to serve. And so that really worked out well. And then obviously the work with the GSCPA and then coaching baseball is the same thing. We do fall and season, spring baseball. And every season we get 10 kids and, we get 5 to 6 hours a week with those kids. And it's important for me that we're pouring into those kids and, just making sure that they've got good role models. They've got a couple of hours a week where, it's structured. We're hard on them, but, we cheer them on louder than we get on them. And they see that benefit. There's a lot of lessons. I don't want to turn this into a baseball podcast, but there's a lot of lessons to be learned on the field. My son in particular over the last year has really come into his own from seeing a struggle on the field. He pitches and, you get into a pitching match and you throw a ball. And if that ball causes 4 more balls, you've got to find something inside that tells you, hey, I just threw a ball, but I can throw a strike next. And so it's just building that foundation that I think serves people very well going forward. It's really important.
It is. And you know what? I think back to my child days playing baseball, and there was fundamental things that I was learning that I didn't even realize until after I played, working together as a team and collaborating and what teamwork and one really means versus individualism, especially in a game of baseball.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a team aspect for sure, but there's also a lot of individual work that goes into baseball. And, most of the kids that play recreational baseball are never going to throw a pitch in the major leagues. That's not what it's about.
But we all think we're going to. We have 100%.
To. And I would say you can't get there unless you think you can. So, don't give up on those dreams, kids. But what I would say is, you have to, the benefit that you get from it is learning the life lessons that come from a baseball game. And it seems cliche to say, but it's true. It's real. There's a lot, because it's funny. I've actually used a lot of the things that I've said in practice at work. Obviously, I'm not catching a ground ball at work, but talking about, letting something happen negatively go and get to the next play. Certain things like that, I've said it over and over and over at practice and in games. And then I come to work and I have something go wrong. And I'm like, wait a minute, I've been telling 10 8-year-olds this all season.
Two hands. Two hands.
Oh, get it out. Get this hand out of your pocket. I told them all last week. That's all I've been talking about. Get this hand out of your pocket and put it over your glove. It's little things like that. It's take your hand out of your pocket. Use two hands. It's just there's a lot of lessons that can be learned out there, but I think most of it's just foundational of making sure that we're working hard and we're doing our best. That's really fundamentally, I'd say that's probably the biggest thing, is just do your best. And if you put your best out there, it will work. Most people's best is enough. So if you can give it your best, you're going to be okay.
So let's talk a little shop here. You and I work very much the same as far as the kind of clients we work with: small to mid-sized businesses, manufacturing companies, tech companies, just across the board. One thing that just amazes me is how many business owners I meet that have 8-figure companies that have never done a budget and don't do any budgeting. Yeah. And so, talk to me a little bit about, working with business owners, talk a little bit about what, some of these, whatever size they are, should be doing, to really structure themselves a good company financially.
Yeah. And I know you see this, and it's probably part of some of the first conversations. They're so focused on their company, they don't have time, or that's not their strong suit. That's not where they're at. So again, kind of similar to some of your staff or any other business model, any other professional that you would do, is ask questions. Find advisors that you can ask these questions to. If you don't know what you're doing, ask a question. Don't try to force it. Don't try to make it happen. You don't have to do everything. So I would say that's one of the biggest first things, is just find advisors that can fill in those gaps that you have, and be honest with yourself about the gaps that you have. I see people a lot of times, they'll, especially when it comes to things like bookkeeping or, tax planning or things like that, they try to do it themselves. And so, but you see that they're struggling with it, and either it's a timing thing or it's a knowledge thing, but they struggle. And it's hard to run a business if you don't have good information coming in. And so you need that good information. You need good input to get good output. So I think making sure that you're talking to advisors, you're talking to people that can help you. And from a tax perspective, it's making sure that you're thinking ahead. I think so much of this industry, from a tax perspective, we're always focused on the prior year. And whenever I bring in a client, when I work with people, I try to get them focused on the future. Filing a tax return should be little more than just filling out paperwork. And what I try to do is get my clients on that schedule of, by the time we're doing our tax returns, I'm already looking at next year. The only reason I'm having to file this tax returns is because the government tells me I have to do it, and it's compliance. So, but we've already done all the work. I know the numbers. I know what to expect. There are no surprises, and we move forward. And so planning begins May and June, and so we do the return, and that's a culmination of the work we've been doing for the last year, and we already know it. So I really like starting planning and then maximizing your planning opportunities for the business. I think a lot of times too, I get a lot of calls from clients or new prospects or new clients that call and say, I have this event, I'm trying to lower my tax. And one of the first questions I ask them is, well, what are you going to do to lower that tax? And it's, well, I'm going to buy this, or I'm going to do, I'm going to spend money here. And I try to ask them, well, do you want to do that? Because if you don't want to do that, it's probably not in your best interest. So, small example, I've got a manufacturing client, and we project out income at the end of the year Let's say it's $1 million of net income at the end of the year. And so they're going to pay Fed tax, assuming, maximum tax rate and no other income, no other factors, but let's just call it $370,000 in tax. Well, they want to get that number down. And so they say, well, what if I buy a $100,000 piece of equipment? It's like, okay, well, do you need that piece of equipment? Because if you tell me you're not going to use that piece of equipment, you're going to spend $100,000 to save $37,000 on your federal tax. That's not a good cash decision. That's not a good business decision. So what I try to do is get us looking at what is best for my business and what's best for my long-term plan. And if there's a tax advantageous way to do that, then let's look at it. But if there's not, let's make the decision that's best for your business first. Taxes come second.
So, as I've learned, not all CPAs are the same. Sometimes, you're reactively finding out that you had somebody that was helping you do your taxes and your books, and they didn't really have the knowledge they needed to. And, how does a business owner, I'm in a situation right now with somebody I had before that I'm trying to clean up something back from a couple of years ago. And it wasn't you, by the way, and everybody. But how does a business owner proactively know, hey, I'm getting good advice here, and I got somebody that's doing my work for me that is doing the right work and taking care of me and doing the best interest. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. And so a couple of things. I think a lot of it depends, first of all, on what does that client want out of that relationship? Does that client want compliance? Does that client just want a tax return filed and they don't want planning? They don't want to talk about, the most advantageous way to go about doing something. Then, hey, as long as you're getting your return filed and the fees right, you're probably going to be okay. But if you're wanting that planning, if you're wanting some forward thinking and not just reactionary, I think, asking the questions to your CPA and, saying, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. And I think you get a pretty good feel for the response and whether or not you've got somebody who's adequately equipped to handle that. One thing that we've seen, and I think this is an industry issue right now, we know the industry is struggling with professionals right now, volume of professionals and then experience. We've got a very special bell curve, it seems like, in the profession where we don't have as many accountants coming in as we do that are retiring and leaving. And there's a lot of different factors to that. We don't have to turn this into a accounting industry podcast, but there are certain factors to that for sure. And so what we're seeing is fewer people in the industry, fewer people to do the work, when I would say the volume is probably an all-time high. I can tell you, I know that the work that I have seen coming in is more than I've seen at any point in my career. Now, it could be because I'm at a different level now, but I think there is a lot of work out there to be done and very few people to do it. So what we're seeing is a struggle for a lot of CPAs to keep up. It's just a time thing. There's only so many hours in the day. And I think response times have suffered with a lot of CPAs, and that's just virtue of the way the work is right now and just the schedule. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and the IRS also makes it easy too, because they keep throwing all kinds of new rules that keep increasing the work. One of them that has been hitting me several times is something called beneficial ownership. Yeah. And I heard about that from you the first time a couple months ago, and now that's all I'm hearing about it. So talk a little bit about that and what that means.
Yeah, and it's funny. I've been probably to the irritant of a lot of people around me. I've been kind of banging the drum on this a little bit, and I think it's kind of a ticking time bomb that people just are not aware of. It's the short of it is that if you own a company and you're not part of the exemptions, so one exemption, for instance, if you have over $5 million in gross revenue, 20 employees or more, and a brick and mortar location. Okay, so if you're under 5 million in revenue and under 20 employees and you don't have a location, or if you just have one piece of those. So you can be over 5 million in gross revenue, but 10 employees, you're not exempt. That's just one exemption. There are a number of exemptions. But if you do not meet an exemption, you have to file a new beneficial ownership reporting requirement through FinCEN, which is the Department of the Treasury, or the Department of the government that handles all of your foreign financial reporting requirements. And so they're taking on this beneficial ownership reporting, and you just have to show the government what companies you own, who are the owners of your company. And you have to include information like pictures of your driver's license, pictures of your passport, all the ownership information. And the penalties for not doing that are aggressive, is an understatement, but it's about $10,000 for noncompliance and a potential for 2 years in jail for noncompliance. And that's per LLC. So somebody who may own 10 LLCs, where they're looking at those penalties times 10. And so it's one of those reporting requirements that nobody's talking about, or not many people in the public are talking about. And I think you're going to have a lot of people who actually don't use CPAs, is actually who I'm most concerned about, because I know our clients are going to be taken care of. That's not really who I'm worried about. Mm-hmm. I'm worried about the people who don't use CPAs, who may use H&R Block or use, an online file, TurboTax to file their tax returns, but have a CPA.
If they're not having to do a corporate return or just passing it through their 1040, it's easy to miss, I bet.
Exactly. And the other concern that has recently come up, we were on an IRS call to talk about it. And so if you have any change in beneficial ownership, going forward, you have 30 days to file. So let me back up. Any LLC in existence as of 12/31/23 has a year to get their beneficial ownership filed in 24. So you have that all of next year to file this. But if you create your entity January 1st, 24, beginning on that date, you have 90 days to file this form and to get it filed. And then after 24, you only have 30 days to get it filed. And if at any point you have a change in your beneficial ownership, you have 30 days to file that update, or you're subject to those penalties. And what we found out on this IRS call is that even a change in your driver's license. So let's say I just renew my driver's license in 3 years. That's a change.
Or you move.
I have 30 days to file this. And you can't tell me that somebody with an 8-year expiration date on their Georgia license is going to remember in 8 years when they renew their license that I have 30 days to file this. So it's going to be really difficult, I think, for people to keep up with. It's a pretty big burden. And so actually what I'm working on right now is I'm trying to work with the Secretary of State to try to put something together on the website that when people register, they get some sort of notification, hey, you have this filing requirement. You need to look into this. And again, that goes back to, I think I said a little bit earlier, the biggest part of our profession is going to be giving back and looking at the community and being a good steward of what we do. Again, I'm fine with our clients. Our clients are going to be taken care of. They're going to have the information they need. But I'm so concerned about and worried about those businesses that don't use us or any CPA. They're going to be in a bad spot if we don't get this taken care of and get this information out there. So I'm actually going to be reaching out to our leadership a little bit later to see if I can, if we can put this on the news. I mean, I personally feel this should be on, Channel 2, Channel 5, Channel 11. All the news outlets should be covering this.
The first person that goes to jail, then everybody will know about it, right?
Yeah.
Or the first fine.
I'd rather know a little bit sooner than that.
It ain't going to be me, brother. So just final thoughts. So if somebody wants to learn a little bit more about Mauldin Jenkins and get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so you can look us up online. We've got a great website that has, details of all of our services, all of our leadership. You can find me there. I'm on a couple of videos with the GSCPA. I write a number of articles. I've got an article out on the beneficial ownership, so you can search that online. Our website's mjcpa.com. But again, just look us up. If anybody has any questions, we have a link where you can reach out. If you want to ask a question or have, something specific that you want to run by me, put it in the contact link that you're looking to talk to me, and be happy to talk to anybody that has questions. My door's always open. My phone's always open. I'm always willing to and ready to talk to people that have questions and see if we can help.
Nick, you're a great man. You're a great father. You're a great CPA. You're just a servant leader all around. And I really appreciate you. And thank you for coming on the Growth Catalyst Show today.
And I greatly appreciate the opportunity, and I'm glad I was able to be a guest. And, I take a lot of inspiration from the people around me, and you're certainly one of those. And I take a lot of pride in being able to get that information from people around me and take that input. So I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, my friend.
Absolutely.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Growth Catalyst Show. Remember, you can take these stories of growth and make them part of your own journey. Learn from them, draw inspiration, and let them guide your path of growth. I'm your host, Dan Mahoney, and I look forward to our next journey together. If you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, keep growing.